Finally, it rises. Public preference for Lincoln Continental as the symbol for today's luxury motoring.
Hey, it's ODB, the Lincoln Addict, hitting you guys with another video. I appreciate you guys coming back to check out the channel. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing. I really appreciate it. I don't only talk about auctions and these different listings. However, it's become just a topic that I do like talking about. Of course, you could check out the podcast, and I'll be doing other videos. I've got a few in the works, so more to come on the channel. But what I want to do, you guys are seeing the main screen here, is I haven't talked any about the Mecum Kissimmee earlier this year. It just, I think I was away that weekend, and it wasn't that I haven't looked at any of these prices. It just kind of wasn't on my radar. I had did a bunch of the Barrett-Jackson reviews and things like that, and I just wanted to kind of circle back now and at least hit upon what we did see. Now, there's not a whole ton to talk about. I just want to look at some of the key prices and just hit upon a few things, and then I do want to talk primarily about this $100,000 62 convertible that you're going to see. Now, if you don't know, anyone can go to mecum.com. You can sign up for a free account, and once you log in, it's going to give you the price for these cars, so you don't have to have any special access. Of course, if you just go to the website and you're in a logged out state, you will not see these prices, so I'll kind of wanted to reinforce that. Now, what you're seeing here is this 63 Lincoln Continental sedan sold for $33,000, and again, I'm not going to do a deep dive. One thing I do want to point out that I really appreciate about Mecum's site is I think that their website is it's better in many ways than Barrett-Jackson. One thing I like is, like, if you look at the photo gallery right here, boom, you've got blown up 37 photos, right, or however many photos the person provides. Typically on Barrett-Jackson, it's just a few, and my understanding is they can provide more because we've seen some listings. But to me, this is laid out nicely. You scroll down, it's got the main key specifications. Oftentimes, many of the the copy paste information, like 430, automatic trans, things like that. But also the highlights. For instance, on this one was the same owner since '86, and of course it's just boom, bullet pointed down, and then you have your photos. But this sedan sold for $33,000, and it did also have air. Oftentimes when I post a car on social media, I post, maybe some of the higher end things, some of the things that are going to maybe get people's interest peaked a little bit more, especially on the higher tier prices. And that leads people to, I believe, sometimes think, wow, I'm never going to own one of these cars. But, certainly that example there, although $33,000 a few years ago, you could have picked up a sedan for a lot less. If you are looking at getting one of these cars, you can often get into a sedan for a lot less, learn a little bit about these cars, get your feet wet, so to speak. Speaking of sedans, here's a 65 that sold for almost $40,000, so $39,600. Now, I do not know specifically if these are the hammer prices or if, I'm guessing this is the all-in price, which includes the fees, if applicable. But highlights here, you can kind of see here silver with black leather bench seat, and you can kind of see the color here. 65, highly desirable car. And again, some of the I'll call them old timers, old school guys, old LCOC, Lincoln Continental Owners Club guys, that have been around a long time. I've seen some comments in the Lincoln forum where they've said, wow, I can't believe, these prices, just 10, 15 years ago, you could pick up a sedan for, 5 to 10 grand easily. But obviously things have changed. And if you're looking at getting a car and you can compromise and maybe decide that you don't want to go with, with a convertible, certainly the sedans are an option. Now, I did click out of that, but I do want to show you that once you log in, you can go to results, and then you scroll down here, and then it's basically a filter. So you select Kissimmee, and then what I do is type in Lincoln Continental, and when you hit enter, here you go. So what I did is I started at the bottom. Now, I do skip. Oftentimes, I think sometimes guys go, hey, why don't you cover other Lincolns? I'm just a huge fan of the 60s, although 58, 59, 60 as well. I do like those. My buddy Tony had a 58, which I loved. But just continuing on, this 66 blue was not sold as far as I know. It doesn't have a price. Now, I almost thought it was the same one, but it does show a different lot number. Um, and there is a plate on this one, and this one says the bid goes on. So I'm assuming the bid went on that one, meaning that it didn't hit the reserve. I believe, if I remember correctly, I get this confused. Mecum, you can have a reserve. Barrett Jackson, there's no reserve. I think, if I remember that correctly. 67 Lincoln Continental. So check this out: a convertible, 35,000. So again, reinforcing that these cars can be had at a more fair price than these, six-figure cars, so to speak. I do like here one of 2,276 produced, so they kind of lead in with that. Obviously, as I've reinforced over the course of time, the sales did decline, as they got into 66, 67, and of course 67 was the last year of the convertible. But just looking at this car again, not going to do a deep dive. We can see it doesn't have AC, which again is not a deal breaker. This one does say a Washington State car, so the DSO would have been in the Pacific Northwest, so to speak, and don't really see any photos underneath it, so we can't really tell how rusty, if at all, this car is. But certainly, blue is a favorite color of mine. Not everyone's favorite color, obviously, but I think the important thing here is, again, a convertible, although a 66, 67, right, in the later years, could be had for 35 and a half. So pretty solid number. We've seen sedans, like we just saw, sell for a higher price than that. Now, some people will ask, why do the 66 and 67 sell for less? What I would tell you is this: they have been gaining in popularity. I think as the earlier year Lincolns continue to go up in price, you have people going, listen, I just want a convertible, I'm willing to pay it. And certainly, again, I've reinforced this, the 66, 67 I think are highly they're kind of slept on, so to speak. A lot of people go, well, they like the design of the 1, 2s, and 3s. The 4s and 5s changed a little bit, and then the 6s and 7s changed kind of a lot when you compare it to the earlier year Lincolns. But certainly, they are awesome cars. Now, from what you saw here in these different blocks, basically this was the big seller, 106,700, and it's a 62 Lincoln Continental convertible. It's, of course, automatic trans and has air conditioning. I want to take a look at this one, and then we'll wrap up this video. Again, if you can subscribe, I appreciate it. The key thing here is I am trying to kind of float in some shorter videos mixed in with some of the videos that typically will run 20, 25 minutes. I know not everyone has that amount of time to spend on every video, but certainly appreciate the support. This is burgundy with new black interior, cream colored convertible top. You can kind of see here. The one thing that stands out is two things. So one, more than likely, it's not a 23,000 mile car. As you know, back in the day, the odometer, when it hit 99999, it flips over. So more than likely, it's 123,000 miles, which is still low. I like to point that out. I have a 65 with about that amount of miles, 120 range, and it's still super low when you think about how old these cars are. But you basically have redone bright work. They did new carpet, new dynamat, and those things are key things. It kind of shows that someone put a little bit of time and effort into it. Now, the big thing that stands out that's going to obviously turn some people off are the wire wheels. But here's the win that you get with this car. You have a lot of people that love these cars, especially, I've mentioned it on the last episode of the podcast. I kind of think I figured out why so many people, especially older generation, they kind of hate on any customization on these cars. And, not a huge spoiler alert, but a lot of it goes back to these are low number cars, and these cars were expensive in their day. Certainly 6,700 to to almost $7,000. You add in tax and a few dealer add-ons, and you name it. You're $7,000 back in the mid to early 60s. That's a lot of money. But with this car is you kind of have light customization. So you have basically wheels, and The good thing about this is it's like buying a house that you don't like the exterior or interior paint colors. I mean, you may not be a fan of painting. I'm not, certainly, in my house, but it can be remedied very simple, right? And that's the same thing with this car. You basically have a classic car that a lot of people could enjoy, and what they did was, by this color with this black interior, redone carpet, wire wheels. You can see here it is an AC car. Engine bay looks clean for the most part. Maybe some resprayed parts to, flat black, if you will, kind of looking in here at the apron, so to speak. Everything kind of looks nice and clean and tidy for the most part. But it has a little bit of, dare I say, the word flair. I'm a big fan of Office Space, by the way. But, when you look at this car, this is a car that, according to what I saw, is it's running and driving car, top windows work, someone's going to get in and cruise. Now, granted, $100,000 is a lot for a car that isn't highly customized or isn't this real prestigious level in terms of a factory pristine original car. But for the most part, you look at this car, and I guarantee if you posted it and said thumbs up, thumbs down, you're going to get mostly thumbs up. You're going to get some people that say, hey, don't like the wire wheels. But again, you have to be able to look past that and say, hey, listen, if you bought this car and you absolutely just didn't like the wire wheels, maybe you want to run factory hubcaps, maybe you want to do some Colorado custom wheels, whatever, that's an easy fix. This car does not have air suspension, so nothing has been bolted on underneath it, so to speak, and it can easily be put back to factory. We can see here from some of the inserts, like, again, it's not a perfect car. Certainly, it's a lot of money, but I can tell you this car, it has, perfect, I think, pun is curb appeal. It has the curb appeal for a lot of people. Someone that's maybe saved some money up, maybe they've made some money, however they do, and they said, you know what, I'm going to go out and get a nice Lincoln that really hasn't been hacked up, but is a cruiser, and oh, by the way, if I get tired of the wire wheels, I can always put it back to stock. So, certainly, I would say a surprise, for a car like this to sell for that much. We have seen some later models. One in particular, I think, went for $120,000. It was a 66 or 67, the red one. I think the guy in Florida owns it. It sold for a number in the 70s, I believe. And then it went right around on Bring a Trailer, and I think it kind of had the high watermark for a while for a Lincoln on there, because a lot of times Lincolns weren't bypassing $100,000 on there. So, that 66, 67 with air suspension and wire wheels ended up going for, like, I think 120, if I remember correctly. So you have someone here that goes, you know what, I want a nice cruiser, no crazy air suspension, nothing crazy, just some wheels swapped out, and boom, they ended up just north of $100,000. So, what do you guys think of this car? I think it looks nice. I think it's a nice cruiser. I definitely love to cruise it. They had 35 photos, which again I think is a good thing. The more photos, the better. The downfall that I would say is, of course, we don't see any photos underneath it. But typically, as I would remind you, at one of these auctions, for a long time they've been buyers and bidders there in the crowd, in the stands. Now I think as time goes on, a lot of stuff's online, people are remote, maybe they're going to have a buddy look at it, that type of thing. But I would certainly caution anyone, be very confident if you're going to buy a car where you can't put eyes on it, or you can't have someone you trust, maybe someone you pay a few $100s to go look at a car and check it out, because it can look great on top. I've seen this happen, and it could be, rusty and things like that underneath. Not saying this car is, but certainly that is something I have preached as much as I can on this channel when talking about these cars. So I'm going to end it with this. I'm working on a video that will talk about my 65 Lincoln Continental convertible that we call Rita Hayworth. We finished the air condition upgrade. So we went from the 112, the old school refrigerant, to the new school stuff, right? Not the new stuff that I'm hearing that's making its way, but I think it's 134A is the refrigerant. I always get the numbers and the letters confused sometimes in my head, but The 112, I think, is the old stuff. The 134A is the, the newer stuff that most of us are accustomed to. But I did finish that upgrade thanks to Blair Farmer, thanks to TC, Teresa, also known as TC, but also thanks to Chris Dunn and his team over at Lincoln Land. They supplied some parts that I needed, so I was able to walk over there, make the purchase with George and Chris, and that made it a lot easier. So I will talk about that. I'll talk about the benefits and the options that you have. The reason why, and this is my last thought on the subject, is a lot of these cars that you see, that we go through here, they typically have non-working ACs, and I don't know if it's just the fear that people have. These cars are a little over-engineered. Is it they don't want to dig into it? Do they not want to spend the X amount of money to do it? Do they just want to punt it? Do people even really care? It's a drop top. They're having a good time. I care because I wanted things working in my car, but also right now in Florida, and I know much of the country, I mean, it's super hot. Now, granted, I'm not going to put the top down and go cruise right now unless it's the evening time. But certainly, if you have AC, maybe you're going to a local show, you could put the top up, or if you've got a sedan, you've got that cold air on you, and then boom, on the way home or the evening time, you leave the top down, the windows down, and it's not as bad. So I'm working on that next, in the next couple of weeks on a video. So keep it tuned to Lincoln Addict. I really appreciate the support. Stay on the rise, and take care, everyone. Hope you had a great 4th of July. We out of here. Peace.